Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Ain't no religion too. I hope someday you will join us, and the world will leave us in. And the world will live as one. Live as one.
Welcome everyone to the Wake Up Call channel. And the world will live as one. Even after that performance at the Olympic Games opening ceremony, the Olympics themselves tweeted out the world will live as one. And it's become a common thing at the Olympics since 1996 for them to play the song Imagine. And the lyrics of that song are really important for people to understand. Now, the Olympic Games are supposed to be about all of these countries coming together and playing in these sporting events, even though a lot of them aren't even real sports, where they're playing for their country. But the lyrics of the song Imagine are actually the anti-Olympics, but nobody's picked up on that yet. The lyrics of the song Imagine are literally the Communist Manifesto put into music. It is the anthem of the New World Order. So let me cover this performance from Juliette Armanet, a witch that they chose to perform this ritual out on the water. Well, of course, nobody was suspicious as to why the piano was burning. Now, if you're not familiar with the elements, fire is probably the most versatile element in spellcasting. It's why you always see fires used in cauldrons. It's always why you see fires used in ritual ceremonies. A lot of concerts, these celebrities use fire and flames surrounding them. This isn't for pyrotechnics to tickle the ears and the minds of the audience. This is because fire is used in witchcraft. Fire is used as a element in their spell casting. They're not doing this, they're not setting a fire on the stage because they're cold. They're using it because they're casting spells. That's what music is used at in today's world. It's used as a form of spell casting. So think about how many people out there who are anti-New World Order, anti-globalism, that listen to a song Imagine and they don't even hear the lyrics. They don't even realize that it's the Communist Manifesto. The thing that bothers them most about what's occurring in the world is in a song that they're listening to, and while they're listening to it, they're dancing to it and they're singing it themselves, and they don't even realize the spell's being cast over them. And the key thing in all of this is to remember the world living as one. One, again, is the key number. One, as in one world government, one world religion, one world language. You know how many songs are out there titled One, Metallica One, U2 One? Nobody's ever thought anything about all of these songs about the number one. Now, I have a video on the website, Uprising Lives, about that number one and why there's so many songs called One, but nobody realizes it. Nobody pays attention to it. They just keep hearing songs coming out about the number one, right? Nobody tells you, well, why did Metallica have a song about one? They just keep yelling one, and U2 keeps yelling one. It's always been about one. And this goes back, again, to the Tower of Babel. This song, Imagine, is about rejecting God and Christ and promoting a one world order. The one world order goes back to the Tower of Babel. They're obsessed with recreating the Tower of Babel. When they talk about the people being united as one, they're talking about the people being united as one against God. They're not talking about the Russian civilians and the American civilians being united as one. They're talking about all civilians across the earth being united against God, the recreation of the Tower of Babel. Keep in mind that most civilians in America would have no issue with any civilians in Russia or in China or anywhere else if it wasn't for their media machine that keeps everybody divided. They're the ones who cause all the chaos in the world with their staged wars and their assaults on civilians and the constant attacks that they do on our personal lives and meddling in our everyday lives with the things that they do to the air, with the chemtrails, to the stuff that they jam into our food, and then telling us that our next door neighbor doesn't vote the same way as we do, so we should be enemies with them. This all goes to them, and their goal here is divide and conquer. That's why they're dividing us every single day. They're dividing you to exhaustion, and the goal is to bring about this connected world, and this connected world will be the recreation of the Tower of Babel. Remember, abolishing religion, abolishing the past, abolishing nations, abolishing capitalism, abolishing poverty, abolishing the family. These are all things that are in John Lennon's song Imagine, these are all goals of the New World Order. And how do they plan to do it? Well, it's been happening right under your eyes. You might remember the mission of Facebook was to make the world more open and connected. This New World Order is fueled on technology. So for people out there that constantly write things about, well, if you're not going to vote for Trump, you're going to vote for Biden, they can't get it through their head of how to defeat the New World Order. They think still they have to go to the ballot box. And of course, that's just an illusion because your vote doesn't count. The more control they have over you is all goes back to technology. The more you allow technology into your life, the more you concede to the government making you and forcing you to do stuff online, payments online, IDs online. That's their control over you. And connecting the world as one can only be done through technology. Through those towers that we see popping up everywhere that we might as well just call, instead of calling them 5G towers, just call them Babel towers. Because that's how they plan on connecting the world as one and uniting the world as one. So let me take a look at John Lennon as well as the person who performed the song. Again, a witch who is spellcasting named Juliet Armanet. And I might be pronouncing the name wrong, but most people don't have a clue who this is other than another witch that they've rolled out to perform a ritual on a large audience who was watching the Olympic Games. So there's a small amount of things that are good about technology. And one of the small things that I find good about technology is seeing all these people expose themselves on their social media accounts. Because I wouldn't know who this person was if I didn't look up their Instagram account. And then through signs and symbols, you could see who they are. So Juliet, of course, all over their Instagram account, because I say there because I can't tell if, I don't know. I don't want to offend anybody by calling them the wrong gender. But I mean, if I'm going to look at this person and decide if it's a man or a woman, well, it looks a little bit to me like this person resembles Andre the Giant than it does a woman. So we could see Juliet, wink, wink, laying on a ground. You could see the black and white Masonic checkerboard, dancing on the black and white Masonic checkerboard floor. These are obviously staged strategically there. The black and white Masonic checkerboard floor, again, goes back to Freemasonry and secret societies. Duality is what it represents. The black and white symbolism is very big, not just in Freemasonry, but in witchcraft and the occult. And they reveal themselves with these types of things, but they know that the masses are so dumbed down that when they hear something like this, they'll just roll their eyes and say, oh, it's just black and white checkerboard floors, right? But when you try to connect it to them and talk about the lodge in their town that has those floors and why they all have to have the checkerboard floors, whether it's a Prince Hall Masonry Lodge or a Freemason Lodge or an Eastern Star Lodge, why they have to have it, it's too much for them to wrap their heads around. So the other symbolism we see is the heart symbolism over and over and over again. And of course, nobody seems very suspicious as to where this symbol came from, and I just covered it again. This is a symbol for Baal. The heart is a Babylonian symbol for Baal. The heart means B-E-L. And all these celebrities are always just holding up a heart. And this plays an integral part in imagining the world living as one, the love wins movement, the tolerance movement. All of them, again, the Antichrist is going to come in the name of love and peace. And all these celebrities, you could always find them holding this symbol up all over the place. And nobody says, well, why are they all doing it? Aren't they artists? Aren't they supposed to be creative? Why do they all do the same signs and symbols? Because they're all in on it. They're all in on it, and they don't expect you to notice. Other things on Juliet's Instagram account that are very suspicious, of course. Well, to people like us who are awake, we could see 33 blasted right out on Juliet's Instagram account. Now, you could look at it, you could say, well, maybe she was trying to say that she was 33 weeks pregnant, but, well, we know that's not biologically possible for Juliet. But whatever excuse you have, they'll make excuses for it, right? But we all know that they deliver. It's not like there's a countdown from 1 to 35 or whatever it possibly, 1 to 100, where every week Juliet's posting number 1, number 2. It's just randomly a number 33 posted on the Instagram account. I went through the entire account. So there's nothing in there where it's like, okay, well, every time she turns 30, has a birthday, she puts up a post to tell everybody her birthday number. No, it's just 33 in there deliberately, strategically. Just like I've covered, the symbolism with 33 is always out there. It's one of the most obvious codes that they use. For those of you that don't know, 33rd degree is the highest level you could achieve in Freemasonry. It represents 1/3 of the fallen angels. They also believe that the age of 33 is when Christ was crucified by these same people who despise Jesus Christ so much. So 33 is an occult number. You also see the monarch butterfly symbol. Just some random person, she posts this, where you could see a monarch just right over the face, which tells us this is another product of MK Ultra mind control programming, right? And should it surprise anybody when we see some of the other posts on there, like, Juliet just hanging out side by side with Barry Sortoro? Does that surprise anybody that Barry Sortoro somehow knows Juliet, this supposed musician from over in France? Of course it shouldn't surprise anyone, because all of these celebrities, again, you always see them with politicians, but nobody asks themselves, how do they know each other, right? How do they know one another? How do they meet? What does their agent call the White House and get a hold of Barack Obama, and then get his number, and then they call me? Oh, they're at a red carpet event? Oh, and she just ran up to him? As if as if the Secret Service isn't there, and as if you could actually get within arm's distance of Barry Sortoro, unless, of course, you're one of them. Right, because they all rub shoulders together. Nobody's suspicious as to the connection between Hollywood and these politicians because they're too busy idol worshiping. So some of the other stuff, before I get into John Lennon and the Beatles, which is really important, you'll see a photo that Juliet posted where you can see the blatant eye of Providence right in the photo, right? One eye symbolism. I guess she likes to paint a mouth, a nose with one eye, not two. She's into cyclopses, apparently. She has a fetish for cyclops, right? Because whenever somebody asks you to paint a picture of, a face, right? Whether you're a good if you're good or not at painting or drawing, whatever, you always do it just with one eye, right? Right. This is for cyclops, though, right? You see the Apollo worship, the sun worship. You also see Juliet doing a picture where Juliet is mocking our king. Most of them have pictures like this. Like I've covered Rihanna in the past where they have crowns on. We've seen them mock the crown of thorns. We've seen Kanye West do that. They love to wear crowns on their heads. And of course, Juliet is no different. So Juliet was paying homage to the song by John Lennon, Imagine. And of course, if you don't know, the mess we're in today all goes back to bands like the Beatles. The Beatles were an experiment out of the Tavistock Institute for Social Engineering. Okay? If you don't know what social engineering means, if that word is too boring to you, social engineering is how they get everybody out there on board with all these types of fads through mind control, right? Nobody even thinks of why they dress a certain way, why they might talk a certain way, why they like a certain this or that. They think they're doing that via free will. They're not. They're doing it via the media and social engineering. If they shut everything off, that's why when we look at the Amish, who are disconnected from this stuff, to us, it's shocking. Seeing how they dress, seeing how they talk. Everyone's like, geez, what are they from the Stone Ages? Because they are not able to social engineer them. They actually live like people are supposed to live, normally, naturally, right? The rest of us have been pushed into a machine where social engineering has been at the wheel, steering our behavior. So when the Tavistock Institute released the Beatles, you remember things like Beatlemania? You remember the obsession where people were fainting over seeing the Beatles? The Beatles and Elvis were at the forefront. They even used Elvis, for people out there that don't know, to push vaccines back in the day. Kind of very similar to what we've seen today, right? Where all these celebrities come out and show you getting that needle put in their arm. Or that could all be traced back to Elvis, who was a product of the government, because the Tavistock Institute worked with the government. They are the government. Let's just call them what they are. They are the government. Okay, it's a government branch like the CIA or anything else working within the government, where they tell you that this is just, an organization that's here for, we're doing studies and experiments here. And then people just go, okay, I don't know what that means. I'll just ignore it. But if they knew that it was affecting their day-to-day lives and their thoughts and their behavior, they probably would want to investigate a little bit more. But I don't know actually about that in the year 2024, because people seem to enjoy being slaves to these people. So the Tavistock Institute, when they released the Beatles and they released Elvis, that was the first experiment where we saw where things like Beatlemania occurred, where people were becoming obsessive with these people. And they showed us their signs and symbols over the years. We've seen Paul McCartney with the 666. We've seen John Lennon hold up devil horns. John Lennon, again, who is the singer of the song Imagine. We've seen him doing the all-seeing eye symbolism over and over again. The Beatles themselves, on their Lonely Hearts album, Sgt. Pepper's, they have this cover that's very famous. You'll see it all over the place. People seem to love this cover. It's got random people all over it, right? Random celebrities all over the cover. But nobody ever notices that Aleister Crowley is in the back of this cover. In the back left, you could see Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley is the man who identified as the Beast. And Aleister Crowley's teachings live on in today's world. Aleister Crowley and his books specifically talk about all sorts of demonic spell casting, specifically about human sacrifice with young children. So for him to be on the cover of the Beatles album, of course, most people give him a pass because it's the Beatles. Now, one of the things that drives me nuts is older people, and I'm an older person, who think that all this garbage going on is just from today's world. They're like, oh, it's just the music today is sick. And I don't like any of the music today. I don't like any music, but any of the music today, I hear it. Obviously, it's all about drugs and all that stuff. And they think that the music of their generation wasn't corrupt when they go back to guys like Led Zeppelin. And you talk about Stairway to Heaven and backmasking and what that song's really about, right? And the backmasking on Stairway, which I've covered before, which everybody knows about, should know about at this point, unless you're new to the awakening process. But how they use backmasking through years and years and years, all these singers that became big and famous, the same exact thing. And they were pushing the same exact stuff. They were social engineering you then. Music wasn't just, oh, it got corrupted in the year 2000 when all of a sudden Marilyn Manson showed up. It's always been satanic at its core. It was just a matter of how they revealed themselves to you out in the public. Everybody looked at the Beatles. Oh, they're a cute bunch of guys, and they're not satanic or demonic, but the tree is known by its fruits, right? And who do we always see the Beatles hanging out with? Jimmy Savile, right? What's Jimmy Savile known for? Well, it ain't anything good. Jimmy Savile, you could look at him and you know what Jimmy Savile's involved in, but you don't just have to look at Jimmy Savile to know what he's into. It's out in the open of Jimmy Savile and his connection to children and the occult. And of course, Jimmy Savile rubbed shoulders with a lot of these famous politicians over the years, Prince Charles, King Charles, the Beatles. Nobody connects the dots. It's a big cult of famous people who are only famous because they're products of the government. It's hard for these people who are idol worshipers to wrap their heads around any of these people being put there because they're government operatives. They want to believe in these stories, which is why the government always gives you the stories of how they made it, right? And then they give you the illusion that you could do it too. Like you could be the next Beatles. Just go play in your garage for years and years and years, and you could be like this. So then these people go and they try, and then they go into a depression because they can't achieve these things because it's not possible unless, of course, you're on the inside. And anybody that comes from the outside, of course, is making sacrifices beyond comprehension, but are still members of their lodges and members of their secret societies anyway. So nobody's organically becoming famous. They love that illusion, not just to so people become discouraged and they chase after things that they can't achieve, which results in depression and other horrible things that end up happening to those people, but also because it keeps them worshiping these people. And it keeps them thinking that these people are organically there. And the idol worship is key to all of this stuff that's going on. Most of these people, I see them post stuff about the Beatles. They post stuff about Barry Soetoro, Obama. Oh, he's the best president. Oh, they're the best band, right? They don't even know why they're doing that or what they're saying because they're products of social engineering. So back to the point of this entire video about the song Imagine and the lyrics to that song and how important that song is because it's an anthem for the New World Order, which is why they had John Lennon release that song. It is a song that is worshipped. It is a song that you hear day in and day out. All on the radio. They play it on the radio. Everybody in unison seems to love the song. And it's going to continue to be the song of the New World Order, which is why they continually play it. John Lennon is long past. They're covering this song every Olympics. They play the song still on the radio. Other bands cover the song. It's going to be the song and the anthem of the New World Order, the world living as one. It is the Tower of Babel recreated. I had to do a video on this so people out there could be aware of it, just how they operate right in front of us. Because most people saw some of the things that I did in my other video on the opening ceremony. You saw the trance. These are things that they do in front of you to gaslight you and get you angry. The Last Supper, right? The depiction of the Da Vinci painting that gets everybody so upset, even though the picture itself is not in the Bible for Christians out there who don't know and don't know who Da Vinci is. But, they think that it's some sacred picture that's in the Bible. I think for some of these Christians, I really think that they believe that that this picture is in the Bible. It's a Da Vinci picture. It's a picture that was drawn by one of their own. But I get people being angry about being mocked. But at this point, they're doing this deliberately so that you put your hope in man. That's what they're doing this for. They're doing this so that you put your hope in man to stop the oppression that's being done against you. And no real revolution will ever occur if we're putting our hopes in these bought and paid for politicians who are all working together. So while everybody was looking at all those other themes of men dressed as women with beards and painting themselves like Smurfs, I mean all the disgusting stuff, right? Like if you didn't see my other video, I definitely recommend you watch it because there's a lot of subliminals in there with the French Revolution. But that's what everybody was staring at. But really, they're talking and speaking right in front of you, and they always have been. Because that song, Imagine, is a world that they want. That song, Imagine, is a blueprint for the New World Order, where they eliminate all these things, religion, they eliminate all the different languages. And what it really is about is the recreation of the Tower of Babel. That's the goal, and that's always been their goal. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.